We'll just get the stream on.
Am I sitting where I'm supposed to be sitting?
Yeah. Yeah, we're ready. See? Get to hear what you said.
Yeah, I'm right near this microphone.
So we can fix everything. Why is it?
How come it's in the right?
It goes onto YouTube. Yeah, so it goes onto YouTube. Close this.
That delay is on purpose, or that delay is just technology the way it is?
No,
Do they purposely delay it in order to?
just a natural thing to upload.
Technology.
It's
Technology.
It connects.
It connects. It has to go to Zoom, then go back to Zoom, goes to YouTube. So it's about 20 seconds. Anytime somebody says to you live on YouTube, it's about a 20-second delay. Okay.
I'm too tired for that. Go get it.
Many still comes, many alter. Friday night.
3 times. 3 times a week. 3 times on Shabbos.
So comes all the Shabbos. The minyan. You have a regular Tizman or no?
Now we're doing, yeah, we were playing around between early and late, and now we're just going late. Yeah.
Like, you late? The Tizman, 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
So you were struggling for a minyan. You want to daven late? Tizman? You like davening early? No.
It's a struggle. The last couple of years was a big struggle.
Yeah.
I gave up.
Even till Shavuos.
I went to battle for the Rov, but I don't even know if the Rov, the last week the Rov didn't come.
What are they? They do 7 o'clock?
Yeah, so 7, 10, 6:45.
Last week the Rov did early.
No, middle. It came in the middle.
No middle here.
There is middle.
Last week there was middle. Last week.
It's not, it's unfair because the schedule doesn't show it.
The middle.
We put it on the loop because the Rav told Moshe to put it on the loop. I told Moshe, you gotta tell the Rav, people don't know what to look at anymore.
There is a middle here?
Let me start.
Yeah. We'll start now. Rabbi Sai.
We can get this all on camera, the whole Zman.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay.
All right, just sponsor. I want to welcome again Rabbi Zarchi. Was here last year, Parshas Kedoshim.
I was actually here even more recently.
Yeah.
Yes, in between. Then we spoke about, it was before Rosh Hashanah, no? No. Such, no, I went back to Kedoshim.
I recognize some of you who were here.
Busy telling him he had the photographic memory.
Yeah.
So you should remember what this book was.
Oh, it's a little blurry though.
Yeah, it's not clear. It's black and white. That'll come to me what it was. I know I asked you about Yud Nissen. You said you couldn't come Yud Nissen.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's sponsored by Rabbi Weinberg. Mayor Weinberg had a boy in Far Rockaway. Mayor's Moshe's son. So, Moshe.
It's sponsored by Moshe Weinberg for his
son, Mayor in Rockaway. Okay.
Now that it's 10:12, do we go to 10:37?
You get a few extra, especially if there's extra.
Yeah, basically, I talk until the Kugel's gone. Okay.
Belongs to the Essen, kann man noch reden.
Okay. So in the Parsha of Kedoshim, in Perek Yutes, Pasuk Lamed Hey, Lamed Vav, it discusses the mitzvah regarding having just and equal weights, midos and mishkalos, like Sasu Avu B'Mishpat, B'Mida, B'Mishkal, B'Masuram, Boiznei Tzedek, Avnei Tzedek. You have to have just and correct weights. Efas Tzedek, Hin Tzedek, These are dry measures, liquid measures. Essentially, all of our weights and measures need to be just and correct and equal. And the pasuk finishes. So there's some association with Yetzias Mitzrayim. So the Rambam in the laws of in Hilchos Gneva, he says in, I believe it's the end of Perek Zion, that a person who is koifer in the mitzvah of midos and mishkalos, this person is koifer in Yetzias Mitzrayim. Conversely, if a person is makabel on himself, the mitzvah of midos, he is moida in the sorry, I missed that one point. He is someone who's koifer in the midos. He is koifer in Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is tchilas hatzivah. Whereas a person who is makabel on himself, the mitzvah of midos, he is moiding Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is the beginning of all the tzivuyim. So essentially, what the Rambam I'm saying is that there's number one, there's an association between the mitzvah of midos and mishkalos to Mitzrayim, and he puts in this wording about tchilas hatzivui. And so we're gonna elaborate on that. Number one, there's a question what the Rambam on this general idea. The Rambam says a person who's koifer in midos, he's koifer in Yetzias Mitzrayim. First of all, why specifically midos? I mean, what's the connection specifically to Yetzias Mitzrayim? There's many mitzvahs. The Torah says it starts off. All of Torah mitzvahs, many mitzvahs are associated with Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why specifically, if a person is koifer in midos, is he koifer in Yetzias Mitzrayim? Also, Also the word tchilas hatzivui, that the mitzvah of midos is like from the first commandments, and that's related somehow to Mitzrayim, which was also the beginning of the commandments. So there is some Mepharshim say that Yetzias Mitzrayim, that was the beginning of our journey, and that's where it led to Matan Torah, and that's where we had all of the mitzvahs. But again, why specifically midos? You could say that about any mitzvah, that relates to Yetzias Mitzrayim. That was the foundation. That was the beginning of our journey. So everything could be why specifically midos and Yetzias Mitzrayim. And finally, one other question is the term of the Rambam he uses, kol hakoifer b'midos, mitzvahs midos. A person denies. It's a strange term that the Rambam uses to deny. He should have said a person is not makabel, is not makayim, the mitzvah of midos. What does it mean? He denies it. In fact, the second part of the Rambam he says in that statement he says a person who is makabel midos, then he is makabel on himself the inyan of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So the Rambam uses makabel. Sort of the idea here is not so much whether you deny the mitzvah or not; it's whether you're observing it, you're fulfilling it or not. You could have said the nizhar in a nizhar b'midos. Why the term koifer? But the big question is those two are more like diuk, and the biggest question is what specifically? Why are we tying the mitzvah of midos to Mitzrayim? So the Maggid Mishnah on the Rambam over there, he says that what's the connection? That the mitzvah of midos is something that a person does b'seiser, right? No one really knows. A customer comes to the merchant and they want to buy something and they say this is 3 pounds, and the person brings out a weight and so we're gonna weigh the merchandise. You don't know 100% if it's 3 pounds, if it's 2.5 pounds. So this is something that's done b'seiser. So therefore, this theft is done in a very covert way. So essentially, this person is denying the hashgacha of Hashem. Hashem knows everything that's going on. So that's similar to that ties it to Yetzias Mitzrayim, because Yetzias Mitzrayim over there Hashem demonstrated there's the intervention, all the nisim and the moifsim that showed that there's a hashgacha of Hashem. So this person who denies in the mitzvah of midos is denying in the whole story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. The problem with that explanation is that why specifically midos? There are other averas. So, for example, gneva. Gneva is done also surreptitiously in a covert way. That's the Gemara. We know the whole difference between gneva and gzela. That this person is the Rashi brings in Mishpatim why you have to pay more by the shtar and by the difference between gneva and gzela. This person made as if the ayin shamayla doesn't see and the oizen doesn't see. So you're denying Hashem. Whereas gzela, it's outright. And there's other isurim which a person does in a covert way, and that would also tie to Yetzias Mitzrayim. So why are we specifically highlighting this mitzvah of midos and mishkalos? So first of all, we have to look back to the Gemara. The Gemara, when we understand that what's unique about this mitzvah of Moiznei Tzedek and Avnei Tzedek. So the Gemara says in general, Gemara Baba Kama Daf Samach Aleph, it asks a question: Klal, why did the Torah introduce this mitzvah of midas and mishkalah? Seemingly, we already have Geneva, Gzela. There's already a mitzvah. You're not allowed to steal. What's the difference if you go into someone, you sneak in someone's house, take out $100, or you're cheating them in business and you have an unequal scale? So the Gemara says what is added here with the mitzvah of midas is that a person is over already mishas asiyah, when just by fashioning an unequal scale or measure, that itself, just by making it, you're already over. And so that's number one. Another interesting. Oh, you're not allowed to have it in your house at all, right? So two things. So either if you make one or you have it in your house. And the other interesting chaymer miyuchad, a unique stringency we see by the mitzvah of midas and mishkalis is that, generally speaking, when it comes to gneva and gzela, you're only chayav if you take a shava pruta. There has to be some kind of monetary value. Whereas when it comes to midas and mishkalis, even a mashu, even if the measure is the smallest amount, you're already over. What essentially this is telling us is that the fact that what we're focusing here is not so much whether you're going to cause harm to another person or if you're going to make them lose money. Vaharaya, this mishkal could be sitting in your house, you made it, and you never even used it, you're already over. So we're not focusing so much how this is going to impact somebody else. In fact, the Rambam brings a person has this weight in the house and they use it as a avit shalmei raglayim. So he's essentially using it for his personal needs. He has no intent of using it in a commercial setting. Even that you're already us. In other words, we're not focusing so much about the hezek, the chesar and mamain of this other person. It's the very existence of having this unequal way to measure in your rishus. That already is a problem.
What about burglary tools? A ganef has his tools, his claim okay. That's basically what these weights and measures are. They're basically burglary tools. So when a ganef has his own burglary, is there also an isser to have those types of tools?
Okay, so let me get to the next step, and perhaps it might answer your question. The question is why taka is by midas and mishkalis. We have this unique chaymer that even the very existence of owning it, right, as it's something that's very, very serious. And like we just said, it's not so much where some people learn pshat. It's like a gzeira. Maybe if you have the scale in your house, you might come to use it. But from the way the Rambam and other people saying that the very existence in its house, even if you have no intent of using it, the very fact that it exists in your house is a problem. So the Rebbe gives a fascinating distinction between the midas and mishkalis and all other forms of gneva and gzela. He says, when it comes to gzela or gneva, the actions, it's very straight. You have one intent. You want to rob this person. You want to take away their money, right? You're very, very clear. Now, the manner you do it could be done in a covert way. It could be done in a very conspicuous way. Gneva, gzela, it could be in broad daylight. But your intent, your actions, your thought is consistent with your action. You want to rob this person. What's interesting by the midas and mishkalis is, on the one hand, this person is professing honesty, right? I have a measure. I'm here. You're going to buy 2 pounds of bread, right? I'm going to measure and give you exactly how much. So in other words, you're putting forth that you're an honest person and you want to give the person exactly what he needs. But at the same time, what are you doing? You're saying, yeah, but I have an unequal scale, and surreptitiously I'm going to rob you. So what's happening here is what's so egregious about this avera is not so much the impact it has on the other person, but it's really how it starts within the person itself. The duplicity, right? This hypocrisy that on the one hand I'm trying to profess being honest and a person of integrity, but at the same time I have the intent to steal from you. That is something that's so fundamentally bad, and that the Torah is very serious about. And therefore, its very existence, the fact that you could harbor such a feeling or such an intent within, that is something that the Torah asers its very existence, and even in a mashu.
So is it because it's in the same act? Oh, it's so nice of you, Mrs. Goldstein, that you came and bought for me. Let me give it to you, and he gives it to you in the same action where you act, because a ganav can also be a shiny in the morning and then be a good of a machteris at night.
Yeah, so
it's the same thing.
Right, correct. But when he goes to steal, there's no way, he's not exhibiting any sense of I'm here to help you. I'm here to do something that's honest. The ganav, correct. Whereas the person in Mishkalis, on the one hand, he's like this big tzaddik, but on the other hand, he's there and playing around with the integrity of his weights. And this is something something that the Torah says the very existence is a problem. And in fact, so this is, and this could answer one of the questions. What's the idea? We're saying ha-koifer, a person that is koifer in midas mishkalos is mitzvah. Why are we using the term koifer? Because essentially this person's making a statement. He's saying I believe Hashem says you're not supposed to steal. I believe that 100%. But how about this concept of mishkalos? That it's not so much about how I'm going to harm that person. It's about my feelings, things that begin within my mind. In other words, when a person creates a mishkal, right, at that point, he hasn't yet harmed that person. In other words, yes, in the end game, when a person has an unequal measure and he sells a 2-pound bread, what's allegedly 2-pound bread for 1.9, right, he is stealing that point 0.1. But that's in the action. But the question is, in terms of the person themselves, there's something very, very unique about the way this person is acting to the other person. In the case of midas and mishkalis, and the Torah is saying that a person who doesn't observe that, they're essentially denying a fundamental tenet. That is that Hashem cares not just about how you're acting, but also about your emotions or about your intent. And that's something that's very, very powerful. Why is that? And the Rebbe says this is connected specifically. The Rambam ties it to Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why? Because if we analyze the way the Rambam understands a certain aspect of the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, it really ties into this whole concept of midas. So to understand this, we have to first introduce a Rambam, the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva over there in Perek Hey and Perek Vav, I believe, he talks about the concept of Yediyah and Bechira, Hashem's knowledge and a person's choices, and he talks about the Skar and Oynish, all of these sort of theological issues. So he says that Hashem, when something happens, everything that happens in the world obviously is with Hashem is hashgacha. But Hashem does not decree if a person should be good or bad. That's their choice. And ultimately, when a person receives a punishment, it's due to their choice. So he asks a basic question, a famous question, seemingly by Mitzrayim, right? Mitzrayim were punished through it, Makkos and all that. But seemingly, by the time of the Bris Ben Absarim, right? It says, Hashem told Abraham that they're going to be in strangers in a foreign country, in a foreign land. They'll be enslaved, they'll be oppressed, they'll be tortured, they'll be abused. So now the Mitzrayim went ahead and they tortured them and they abused them. There was the shibud. But what are you punishing them? This was something was already foretold years earlier, right? By the Bris Ben Absarim. So how could you punish them? This is the shot. He asks related to other things, but this is the focus. So what does he answer? He answers that the decree on that the Yidden would be enslaved was not on any specific individual Mitzri. It was on the collective. There was this idea that Yidden had to go down that would be subject to slavery and oppression, but it wasn't a specific Mitzri. So therefore, each Mitzri, they in themselves didn't have to be the one. It could have been somebody else. So even though ultimately
it didn't even have to be that specific parent.
Oh, hang on. We'll get the Pari. Pari is a good question because Pari is a bigger issue because it couldn't have happened without his say-so. Fine. Hang on a second. But let's talk about he doesn't address that specifically. Let's talk about first the Rambam and the Raavad. So the Rambam says at the end of the day, Taka. There was a gzera that there would be a slavery, but each Egyptian on their own didn't have to do it. It could have been somebody else. So since that person elected and chose to have the bechira that they're going to enslave the Jew, they're going to be attacked, they're going to be raided, and they're going to hit them and abuse them. That's why they deserve the punishment. So now Sagas Haravid, he's masking on the Rambam. He says, hang on a second. If you gather every single Egyptian into a room, and this guy says, I'm not doing it. So the Gzer of Hashem won't be in the sky. What are you telling me that he didn't have to do it? Somebody had to do it. And if somebody had to do it, that means the Gzer of Hashem had to happen. If it had to happen, back to the question, how could we punish the Mitzrayim if they were fulfilling a Gzera that was meant to happen? Yeah, we follow?
No.
Yeah. What's the question?
Each one individual. We're judging each one individually, and each one individually could say, "I don't want to be part of this. You be part of it." I don't understand where the Raavad is coming.
But if every Mitzri said that,
who cares about every Mitzri? I don't have to be worried about every Mitzri.
But he's asking conceptually. Conceptually, the notion of getting punished is because something's your choice. But did the Egyptians really have a choice? A Mitzri, somebody had to enslave the Jews. If someone had to do it, so each person couldn't have said not me, because in the end somebody had to do it. If somebody had to do it, how could you punish them? That's the
promise that
they could have done it with such glee.
So your answer to one of the answers of the Raavad is what you said, that David is parach. He says that So he says, so what's the Raavad saying?
Every Nazi is really responsible the same way. They're not just soldiers. Every Canadian who went to that protest, it's his fault. I don't want to compare the two, but
you're raising a good question. But I just want to, let's first discuss what the Rishonim say. So the Raavad is essentially saying, true, the mitzad gzeir of Hashem, you can't punish them because they were fulfilling, even though they may not have been aware of it. What they were doing is essentially the gzeir of Hashem, so you can't punish them. The problem is they went beyond. They did avodas perach. So essentially, the nature of the shibud was more than what was the gzeira, and that's why they're punished. That's what the Raavad says. But the fact that the Rambam doesn't say that, it means the Rambam disagrees. The Rambam is of the opinion that even by the fact they actually fulfilled the gzeira, that is to say, they carried out what was destined to be. It was already predestined. But nevertheless, even though they carried out the gzeira, they're still liable to be punished. So the question is, what's the Rambam going to answer to the Raavad? Seemingly he has a question. Somebody had to do it, and if somebody had to do it, how could you punish them for doing something that was meant to happen? So the Rebbe brings there's a famous teaching from the Baal Tanya, the Alter Rebbe in the Igeres HaKodesh, and it's based on the Gemara that says the Kol HaKoyes Ki'ilu Eved Avodah Zarah, and he basically says this idea that that's the Rivash, and there's a whole idea that's explained that. Why, when you do something, when a person gets angry, something happens, it's avodah zarah. Why? Because if you really believe that Hashem runs the world, so what are you getting angry? This person came and punched you in the face, and this person robbed you and stole from you. You shouldn't get angry. That's a form of idolatry. You're going to say, hang on a second.
Sue them.
Huh?
But I'm allowed to sue.
You could sue them. So he says, hang on a second.
Hashem's will.
No, but suing.
Hang on. Let's just think this out. So he says, even though Allah nizik. So what happens is like this. The person who was wrong, the person who was damaged, the person who was robbed, the person who was insulted, all of that was already decreed min hashamayim. So essentially what happened was meant to happen. So the mazik could come along and say, hang on, I was fulfilling the ratzon habayir. I was a shliach, right? So why am I chayav b'dinyana b'dinyan shemayim and all of that? So on this, the Alter Rebbe says, there's many agents for Hashem. You didn't have to be the one. Taka Chaim Yankel, I hope nobody's named that around here, had to get the patch, had to whatever was supposed to happen. That what happened ultimately is for sure Ratzon HaBayir. Question is, why did it have to be you to carry it out? It didn't have to be you. He could have found somebody else. The fact that you did it, that is why you're going to be punished. So in other words, based on what the Alter Rebbe is saying is that why do we, if someone went and insulted someone, right? What the punishment that he's fundamentally receiving is not for the damage he inflicted on that person, because the damage that was inflicted on the person was meant to be. So why are we punishing you? It's because you decided that you're going to be the agent for the damage. So essentially, what you're getting clapped from Hashem, the hezek they're getting from Hashem, is not for the damage you inflict on the person. It's because of the evil that you harbor within. That you decided, you made the choice. I am going to be the one to insult this person or rob this person, etc. So what we have over here is like this. There's the person, there's the nizik, the person who was wronged or injured or damaged in some way. He got his comeuppance, but you can't come along and say I did it to the fact that I slapped you in the face means that was meant to happen. Ubemela, you can't punish me. No, the fact that the person was slapped, maybe the hezek that happened. But what we're punishing you is because you have evil within you, and you made a choice that you're going to wrong another person. And so for that,
you have the Rabbi's kash all over again. Put all the people in the world together and say, right. If everybody says no to hit this guy or embarrass him, what's that cause? Is not going to be fulfilled.
Okay, no. So what we're saying is, meaning to say is that's from your das tachton. At the end of the day, the fact that you made the choice to hurt that person wasn't something part of the cosmic scheme. It's the ra that you have within you. So you're not getting punished. So you have a good question. You're saying Poel Mamash had to happen. So what had to happen? No, you're stelling the question back. So what the problem with the Raavad is seemingly the damage, the hezek had to happen. With the Alter Rebbe, we're not talking about the hezek. The issue you're not getting exactly the focus. The punishment, the inish that you're getting is not the hezek I inflicted on the person. It's because you had ra within you. It's the evil choice that you made. The evil bechira to go and hurt that person.
But it's measured based by how much you meted out. How much Ra do I know that's within?
Yeah.
Because based on the value of what I did.
Technically, that hasn't been have to be done by a person. For all we know, Kosh Baruch Hu's Harvey
Done by an animal.
The idea is this guy had to lose $1 million. So it could have happened that he lost $1 million.
Right, so how do I know it's a mil, why is it a mil? Because I stole the $1 million.
So your issue is how much to punish the guy.
Right, because you're telling me
How
is,
do you know how much the punishment is?
because it's based, you're telling me the Ra is within, and we focus on the mazik.
Rebbe's answering is not true. Can't be.
No, it's based on the mazik. That's what you're saying.
he's
The
saying
Ra
it's
is based on the mazik,
right?
right? Because you had, so that was Ra within you, but what was the value of the Ra? No, the value is the Ra. It's how much damage happened to the mazik.
But we're not, the discussion here is not what the nature of your punishment. We're talking in an abstract form,
okay.
right? Let's carry this back to the
I'm
mitzvah.
saying there's a
right?
connection, that's all.
Maybe, but what we're saying is to carry this back to the Mitzrayim. What is the Rambam saying? The Rambam saying is taka, and this idea is as you mentioned before, is even stronger when we talk about about Pare. Because B'Shalem the Mitzrayim, okay, that's one thing. Each guy, they're just the low level guys. But Pare, he's the Moshe B'Kippah. Right? No one could make a move without Pare. So if Hashem wanted Taka had Gzeira, Vavadim v'ino ma'isam, it could never happen without Pari say so, right? In a practical way. And so if Pari is allowing it to, so Hashem needed Pari, so to speak, kaviyachol. And if he needed that, so how could we get around Pari? So Elamai, we must say that the fact that why is Pari punished, not because he actually enslaved the Yidden, but because he didn't enslave Yidden to Mekayim Ratzon Hashem, he did it because he was a bad guy. So essentially, this is what the answer to the Raavad is, yes, it couldn't have happened through somebody else. It had to be Pare, right? So it's easier when, instead of talking about 5 million Egyptians, to sort of distill it to one guy. It had to be Pare. Pare had to enslave the Yidden. But why did he enslave the Yidden? It wasn't Mitzad Ratzon Habayre, it's because he was a Russian. And Pare is a Russian, that's why, and because you're a Russia, that's why you're being punished.
Same thing on all the mitzvahs.
And economic, but with Pari, the contrast is clear. So based on this, what do we see from this? We see from this it's a very similar concept to the concept of midas. The Mitzrayim on the surface or Pari could say, what do you mean? I'm a good guy. Ratzon Hashem. I'm on the outside. What I'm doing is, I'm beating these guys. I'm whipping them. I'm throwing them into the Nile. This is Ratzon Hashem. But on the deep on the inside, what is it really? It's a wickedness. It's a rishus and a double standard. Yes, they maybe some of the people come afterwards and say, I was just following orders, as someone said before. But fundamentally, why did they do it? Because they had the Ra within. And this is essentially the idea of the midas and mishkalis. That what's really driving this person on the outside? He's essentially trying to do what's good and right. He's honest and he's showing measures, but really there's a hypocrisy, a duplicity that's really within that person, and that is essentially the connection to Mitzrayim. And on this we say this is tchilas hatzivui. This is what the Rambam was saying is that in midas and mishkalis, this is the beginning of the process, because ultimately, how does a person taka come to Gneva Gzela? Because it doesn't start in one day. In the beginning, the person doesn't say, oh, I'm going to rob this person. What happens is I'm going to make a midah, I'm going to make a mishkan, do something honest. But the Yetzer Hara comes and sort of adds another layer, another dimension, and says, but while you do that, also have an unequal measure. And that is the beginning where things evolve. And just another aspect to this, what he talks about how why is this or connecting it to Mitzrayim, which is the beginning of Kol Kula, right? He says this Chilas Kol Tzivoyim. So he says where does this all go wrong? So he says that a person, the Medrash says, this is in Parshat Kisetzi when it mentions the Midas Mishkalis again, there's a smichos between the story of Amalek and right after that talks about Midas Mishkalis and talks about Amalek. So the Medrash says, Al Avin Zeh Bal Amalek. Amalek, why did they come? Because of Midas Mishkalis. What's the connection? Because essentially, what is this? And this is more on the level of Chassidus. He says, what is this person? The person's making a statement. He has two different measures, right? So he says, what's really happening here? A person, the Yetzer Hara, the Gemara says, it doesn't say go do an aver. He says, first do kach, right? Just listen to me. You can even do a mitzvah. So he says, you should do mishkal, you should do midas, you should make things nice and good. But I also say you should have another one. What does it mean in a person's life that we have? The Yetzer Hara says, you got to follow Shulchan Aruch, you got to do halacha, you have to have the right measures, you have to do the right mitzvahs. But I say you have to have another measure, you have to have another scale. That is to say, when it comes to ruchnistic things, you have one measure, you have one standard. When it comes to your material things, there's a whole different standard. That is to say, when it comes to my tefillin, I get one kind of tefillin, I get one kind of thing. But when it comes to my car or my house, I have another standard, I have another mishkal. It's an uneven weight, and this is the beginning of the downfall, because this is we know, unfortunately, in life, many of us, or some, they have two different standards when it comes to their material matters and their spiritual matters, and this is fundamentally related to Amalek. Because what's Amalek? Amalek is gematria suffix. When the Yidden said Hayash Hashem b'kirbeinu, they start to ask questions. Essentially, their core faith, their emunah in Hashem, was shaky. That is to say, they started asking and questioning. And when you begin to doubt, and when you begin to have different standards and different perspectives, that is when things could unravel. And on this, the Torah says you have to have one standard. That is to say, if a person, the same way we have the passion or excitement we have on a new iPad or a new thing, we apply that to our learning, to our davening, to our mitzvahs. So when you have one standard, one ephah tzedek, and as he says, tzedek, that is how you begin the journey of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Because what does it mean to leave Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim, Hashem was liberating them. It wasn't just that on the outside, the way we conduct them, the show that we put up for all the people, but really what's going on the inside. We liberate ourselves of those inner middos that we have. That through that we go through Yetzias Mitzrayim. We're able to go where we have to go, which we know that Amalek, where it caught them, they're on the way to Mount Torah. So the hachana for Mount Torah for Shavuos is to be able to standardize, to have the same standard for Torah and mitzvahs for all in Yonim Gashmis Ruchnias, not in the negative but in the positive, and through that you're zeicha Kabbal's HaTorah b'simcha b'pnimis. There's a lot to jam into that, but yeah, it's very the Mitzrayim. It's a deep. You have to stew on it a little bit. You have to eat some. Oh, good. So he learned the tzich, because in the Ha'ara he says, but at the end of that time, Mitzrayim, that was the superpower of the day. So it would seem that if it had to be in that time, that Mitzrayim was essentially the only regional power, the empire of the time. When it was meant to be, right? Because the question is, you counted the 400 years, the 210, right? So, yeah. I believe that's what he says.
If they had a different name.
By the way, this is also Chelek Chav Zayin. You want to look at the Sikhs, Chelek Chav Zayin, the second Sikh. Yeah. So you have to learn them before, then you could actually. Yeah.
But that's I can't wrap my head around it. This concept of it's a Ratzon Hashem, but I have free will. But I have Ratzon Hashem, but I have free will. Keep trying.
Actually, so I missed that part also. So the Rebbe says that this is actually what the Rambam is saying, that Yediyah and Bechira, meaning why did why are you getting punished? So Hashem has Yediyah. In other words, there's the Gzeir that should happen, but your punishment, the punishment is because of your Bechira. Meaning to say, the reason why a person actually gets punished is because, let's say a person stole $100 from that person. Hashem had Yediyah, and that was the Gzeir. But between me and you, why did you steal $100? Not because of the Gzeir of Hashem. You did because that was your choice. You wanted the $100. So in your world, that's what existed. I wanted that guy's $100. So that's why you're getting punished. Not because that guy had to lose $100. The $100 had to be go missing. The fact that you decided to do it, why did you do it? What motivated you? Your drive was because I wanted, because at a bad midday, I wanted to take it. Or I insulted him or whatever I did. That in your world had nothing to do with Hashem. Yeah, Hashem's Yediyah is not like our Yediyah, but in our realm, in our mind, what drove us is that.
The second you're hiding behind Yediyah for your Bechira, then you know you're in trouble. That's what you're saying. Once I'm using the Yediyah as my excuse, my Bechira,
it's very deep.
That's what he's saying.
Because you can ask.
It still doesn't answer the question.
Yeah.
Lamaisa, I don't really have a choice. Lamaisa,
you can say no.
Yeah, that was part of the kavanah. The Yehuda is part of the kavanah.
Knows what? Knows that guy is supposed to be punished. It doesn't have to be you.
No, the Rebbe says that b'shash makeu, when you're cursing the guy, the Dvar Hashem is in his thing. Shimi was cursing David.
That's like my own Rosh
He is. But so Elamai, Hashem runs everything, right? He's referring to the fact that the Rebbe says over there that when the guy was cursing him, how did you do that? You did that with Hashem's. You can't do it on your own. Right. But in your
right.
Yes.
And he's behind that.
Yeah, but
It's a problematic.
It's a spin. You're right. So so it means Hashem is enabling me. Is Hashem enabling me to do it?
There is somewhere Sichna Ore in the Sefer Devarim. Chelik, what would that be? The test, like or Dalit, I think. Yeah. I think it's Pashas there, where there is ein Wort. So ultimately, the ganze Mission Bechid is Mentzach und Atzmus. Right, something like that. Meaning you can understand.
I can. That's why you hit a wall.
Yeah.
You hit a wall. You're right. So Hashem enables you to make the Avera. It's my choice. But if he didn't enable, if he didn't enable, there would be no Bechira. Exactly. So it means he has to enable.
Circular argument.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, all right.
Shkoyach, thank you.
These I'm telling you, they're like on a. You gotta learn it inside. There's that, and you also